When I built my lakeside mansion, I knew it was going to stir some feelings. It's the kind of place people slow their boats down just to stare at: stone walls, massive windows reflecting the water, and a dock that stretches like a runway across the lake. It wasn't just a home, it was the reward for decades of grinding hard work. But right across the shoreline sat the newest HOA development, a cluster of cookie-cutter houses, ruled by people who think their rules extend across the water like some medieval kingdom. It didn't take long before the letters started showing up. Notice of violation: mansion not in compliance with HOA design standards. Corrective action required: demolish or remove structure within 48 hours. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my coffee. They actually wanted me to tear down my house because it didn't fit the community aesthetic. The next morning, HOA chairwoman Karen herself came marching up my driveway, flanked by 2 board members like she was storming a castle. "This construction is unauthorized," she declared, pointing a manicured finger at my house. "You have 48 hours to comply or we will pursue legal action." I just stared at her. "Lady, this isn't Monopoly. You don't control this land." Her jaw set. "We control everything within view of our community. And this gaudy structure is a blight." I could have argued right there, but honestly, I decided to let her dig her own grave. 2 days later, true to her word, I had cops at my gate. The officer looked uncomfortable. "Sir, we got a call from the HOA claiming this property violates local ordinances. They're demanding we issue a stop work order." I smiled. "No problem. You want to see the paperwork?" From my office, I pulled out 2 very important documents. My deed, proving full ownership of the lakefront property. The lease agreements the HOA signs every year, because their entire subdivision sits on land owned by me. That's right. When the developer built their little neighborhood years ago, they didn't purchase outright. They leased the land from my family. And when my grandfather passed, I inherited those contracts. Which means every single one of those HOA homes, including Karen's, is built on my land. I handed the papers to the officer. He skimmed them, raised an eyebrow, and handed them back. "Well, looks like you're not only clear, but technically, you're the landlord of this whole HOA. They don't get to tell you squat." Karen's face drained of color. That's impossible. We're the board. We're in charge." I looked her dead in the eye. "No, Karen. You send me rent checks. And if you don't, I can revoke the leases." The officer smirked. "Sounds like this is a civil matter. But from where I'm standing, I'd suggest you folks stop harassing your landlord." Then he drove off, leaving Karen sputtering on my driveway. That evening, I sent an official notice to the HOA board, effective immediately: any attempt to enforce HOA rules on property outside your boundary will be considered breach of lease. Continued harassment may result in termination of said lease agreements. The panic spread fast. Suddenly, all those smug board members realized their dream homes sat on land they didn't even own. One wrong move, and I could pull the rug right out from under them. Karen. She disappeared from the board within weeks, retiring to spend more time with family. More like the board pushed her out before she could cost them everything. Now, my lakeside mansion sits exactly where I built it, casting its reflection over the water. The HOA members still stare at it, but now they do it quietly, like tenants who just found out their landlord lives in the nicest house on the block. And me? Every time I sit on my dock watching the sunset, I chuckle at the thought. They gave me 48 hours to demolish my mansion. But in the end, I could demolish their whole neighborhood.